I like the idea that a voice can just go somewhere uninvited, like a dirty thought in a nice, clean mind.
Welcome, everybody. It is your boy, Jay. I am back at you with a new show on a new channel. This is Planet Politics News. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. We are going to be bringing you a lot of content. It's going to be a collaboration. There's going to be people from all over the world that are going to be making content on this channel, talking current events, news, politics, and not only how it affects the United States, but how our political landscape affects the rest of the world. But today, as you see, we're talking about are tariffs legal, because this is something that the Supreme Court just heard arguments on, and they will be making a ruling sometime in the future. So what is being said is that tariffs are a tax on the American people, and only Congress can approve a tax. Whereas the Trump administration is trying to say that it's not a tax. But if we break it down here quick, we'll talk about how this is absolutely a tax on the American people and how it works. So when they put a tax or a tariff on imported goods, say coffee, let's say they do a 10% tariff on coffee. So all coffee that comes in the United States is going to have to pay a tariff when it gets here. So that means the importer exporter is going to have to pay it as soon as it gets to the United States. Then they're going to turn around and raise the price of the coffee at a minimum 10%, which means the cost goes back on the American people, which is why it's called the Trump tax. Trump is laying down all these tariffs, which are just taxing the American people, because the importer is not going to pay that. The company that's producing the product is not going to pay that. It's always going to go back to the consumer. That is economics 101. Companies don't lose money and stay in business. So all that cost and extra overhead gets pushed onto the American people, no matter what it is. And then you will hear these people going, well, if you just buy American, that won't be a fucking problem. There's very few companies that do not have to import raw material to create their product. So no matter what, they're going to have to import some type of raw material, which is going to hit with a tariff, which again is going to be passed on to the consumer. This is a global economy now. It's global production. There isn't nationalist companies that thrive on being 100% American. If it's the raw materials that comes from somewhere else, not everything is here. Like, we can't mine for everything. We don't have every natural resource. We don't have everything these companies need to produce their products. So they have to import the raw materials to make the products, even if they're American made. So again, another tax on the American people, because every time anything comes over that's tariffed, it has to be paid on arrival, and then the cost gets passed on to the consumer. So it is absolutely a tax, but this is what they're arguing right now in the Supreme Court. And Ben Shapiro was talking about this kind of, I mean, he did it a little while ago, but he turns on Trump. Him and Tucker Carlson are in it right now. And there's a lot going on with Ben Shapiro, and he's in a war with a racist, but we'll leave that to the conservatives. They can fight amongst each other. But all right, here we go. Ben Shapiro talking with some of the people
now that he can decide when it's an emergency. And he's tried to use that with immigration. He's tried to use that with tariffs. I think we're going to get an answer as to whether or not a president can unilaterally decide when it's an emergency, so he should get more power.
Do you see this as a time, after sort of hearing some of the questions that are being asked, where the idea of more presidential power for this president in this case won't fly?
Well, I mean, I think that one of the characterizations of the court that I always find suspect is when people say, even the conservatives on the court are saying this. Okay, the conservatives on the court tend to be textualists, which means that they're actually looking at the text of the Constitution as opposed to sort of a vague peripheral understanding of what the Constitution means. And so when you're looking at the textualists, and they are saying the president does not actually have emergency authority to simply impose tariffs on the basis of trade deficits, which is essentially what he's been doing, that is a very conservative position. I've been critical of the president, very critical of the president on his tariff policies themselves, which I think are actually economically wrong and I think are actually damaging to the country in a lot of ways on foreign policy, actually. But That's not what's at issue. The issue here is whether the president has the emergency authority to do this sort of stuff. And I thought that the best question that was asked came from Justice Gorsuch, in which he actually said to the lawyers for the president, if, let's say, the next president decides that on the basis of emergency authority, that climate change is an emergency, and therefore he's going to slap, or she is going to slap a 50% tariff on all automobiles coming into the country, would that president have the authority to do this? And the attorney for the president, President Trump, said yes, they would have the authority to do this. I do not believe that the court, I've said this since literally day one when President Trump announced liberation. I said that day, this is illegal. The Supreme Court is going to strike this down. He does not actually have the constitutional authority to do this.
I think it's also going to be very disruptive to the economy as we get through this. I mean, let's.
It already has been.
But it has been. But I'm just saying. Let's
it'll be the best thing for the economy.
Well, it'll
be great.
That's what he says.
No. If tariffs are struck down.
I'm saying functionally, we have a question that we have to ask ourselves, which is what do we do with the tariffs that have been collected? Right. What do we do with the funds that have been collected?
By the way, some of them have been spent already. They're already
those are illegitimate, illegal funds that we have now collected. I mean, I'm not sure how that works. And I'm just saying that if we have a government right now that is highly inefficient, that is not working, that is going to be a political question that somebody is going to have to be a grown up in the room and have to answer to figure that out.
One of the things that will be fascinating is if the court does strike it down, watch the stock market absolutely explode. Seriously, you'll watch the S&P 500 jump like nobody's business, and the president is then going to be in the awkward position of having to explain why the markets are boosted by the rejection of his key policies.
The best example of that is going to be our American automakers. I mean, you're going to see their stock just explode. You're going to see those people who are doing that type of work, for example, who are building cars from Canada, the United States, and Mexico working together. Their stock, to your point, their stock's going to go through the roof.
All right, so that's even conservative Ben Shapiro talking about how Trump's tariffs are illegal and how that he believes the Supreme Court will shut them down, how the stock market will skyrocket, and how Trump will have to explain. Do we really think Trump is even going to try to fucking explain? I mean, let's keep it real. Trump's literally just going to take credit for it and act like the tariffs actually did what they were supposed to. And then he's going to dance around talking about the highest stock market ever because he can't talk about the economy because it's not reaching the American people. And people are like, well, look at the stock market at an all-time high. Stock market's always hitting an all-time high and then dropping and then hitting an all-time high. What's going on with the stock market is not indicative to what is happening with the American people. The American people are struggling. The American people don't give a shit for the most part about what's going on with the stock market because that's for most people's retirement and people are trying to survive today. They'd love to be worrying about retirement, but they're trying to put food on the table, pay the rent, and all that other shit today because the economy is fucked. And anybody who tries to say that inflation's down and prices are down hasn't been to the grocery store. And let's not even get on to how the Tangerine Tyrant went on to say the word grocery like 17 times, like it was a new word he invented. It was a beautiful word, groceries. Who the fuck says grocery is a beautiful word? This is what you could tell. He is so disconnected from reality. He has never done his own shopping. He's never had to worry about where his next meals come from or anything like that. And he could give a shit less if anybody else goes through that because he can't empathize. But back to the tariffs. So the Supreme Court heard the arguments. If you go check out the wording of some of the questions, it kind of seems to me like they're going to rule against Trump in this one, but we'll have to wait and see because even not only Justice Roberts, but justices that he had appointed had some kind of, it's the vibe of how they said shit. You know what I mean? And the look and the way they kind of shot down some of the craziness from Trump's lawyers about how widespread power the president has to do tariffs because he can just declare emergency on anything he wants. And this is definitely what we need them to rule against. So Trump can't keep calling something an emergency and sending in the National Guard and sending in the army and clogging up the court system with all this dumb shit, which again, if you watch my last video, is all part of Project 2025. Nobody should be shocked. If you have not read it, go read Project 2025. It breaks down everything that's going down right now and more to come. This guy has thrown so much shit out there that people literally forgot that he removed all federal holidays that have to do with anybody of color, that he removed a bunch of people from history because they're not white, And he is the guy who told the Washington Commanders if they don't go back to their previous name, that he will make sure they can't get a new stadium at the old RFK Stadium site. So do we really think he's going to come out and just try to explain anything except just take credit for whatever happens and blame Biden when it doesn't? Like, we're to the point now where we're past him blaming Obama, so now everything is Biden. Everything that happens is Biden. And I've told you before, I'm not a big Biden fan. I'm not going to beat the drum and go and stand on my soapbox for Joe Biden, but I'll also say he's 1,000 times better than what we have right now. All right, guys, what do you think? Put it in the comments. Do you think tariffs are illegal? Do you think the Supreme Court is going to rule against Trump? What are your thoughts? How do you feel about it? Put it down in the comments. Let's get a discussion going. And anything that's out there, if you want us to touch on it, drop it in the comments, and we'll try to touch any subject and anything that's going on in the political realm that you guys want to hear. So anything you want to hear, drop it in the comments. Hit the like and subscribe. Go follow on Facebook and Instagram. Also, give it a little time. My boy Maddie from England is going to be on the show. We got some other people who are coming through. I'm talking with a professor out of Philadelphia right now to see if we can get him on the show. I just reached out, so I'll let you know how that goes. I have a pretty decent relationship with him from a couple previous interviews on some other shows, so hopefully we can get him on here. And there's some other people that are going to be rolling through and just doing some one-time content. There's going to be people who come on the shows as guests and people who do other content. So just make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of it. All right, you guys, we really support, wow, easy for me to say. We really appreciate any support you give us. Keep the fight going. And the best thing you can do for us is just share the content. Share the content. And if you're a content creator who is out there fighting this same fight, drop the comment below. I will definitely follow and subscribe, and we can all support each other. I appreciate you all. One world, one love. Dude.
Everything's polluted. The environment, the government, the schools, you name it.
This radio person is the whole problem. Are we going to allow this guy to be heard by anyone who can turn a dial?
You out there? You listening?